We're all subbing.
We'll do a little roll call. Daniel Krim present, Jen Hanks, Kevin Hayes.
I'm here.
Hi everyone, I'm here. I'm sorry I couldn't make it in person, but I'm here online.
Jen, Kevin, Stella.
Thank me.
Here.
Hi. Samantha Meyer.
I'm here.
Val Pike.
Here.
Do I need to go through the staff or just
Yeah, might as well. Yeah.
Jeffrey Bauman? Hence, I'm here. Dalton Johnson? Christopher Fair? Present. Sergeant Kevin Rube? And/or Adam Williams? Announcements.
Why don't you have we have a number of people here from other agencies and possibly a few public.
You want to get them on the record?
Yeah, why not? You can just go around the room if you want.
Okay. Let's start down at the end.
I'm Lorena Regas. I'm the Associate Transit Planner at Mountain Line.
Well, Lorena, I understand you have an important information for us today.
I'm going to be observing the mobility share group and hoping to attend more of these meetings.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
I'm Jamie Larson. I'm Housing and Transportation Coordinator, Vista, at the Sustainability Office.
Excellent.
I'm Kim Austin, and I'm the TDM planner for Metroplan. And I'm going to be presenting micromobility share.
Oh, you're doing the presentation today. Excellent.
Sir.
We're all
Great.
doing
It's
it.
yeah, you get grouped.
It's a special one. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
David, you want to announce yourself?
My name is David Spence. I'm with the Flagstaff City Council, and I'm the council liaison to transportation, Ed and Mike. Thank you. Sorry I'm late.
Oh, you're good. You're right on time. We got a few people online. Does Sam want to introduce himself? You're muted, Sam. Or Paul? Muted, Paul. Or Chris? You're muted, Chris. Good?
Everyone online is shy. We're good.
Okay, announcements.
I have a request for a future agenda item. Can I do that during the announcements?
Sure.
I was hoping, and you may wish to delay this by a few months, but that we could review some of the upcoming bicycle ped improvements that are supposed to utilize federal funding and maybe get an update on that funding, if it still exists, if it's been dispersed, what is using state versus federal, how you could fill the holes. That'd be cool.
Really? You want to do that?
Yeah, I do want to do that.
Okay.
I realize it may be difficult, so if you have to kick it a while in this time of uncertainty, but I think it would be helpful.
Okay.
Mark, unfortunately.
Do you have any updates on those events that were supposed to be happening in April? You hear about rumors?
There was a meeting that I could not attend today, but yes, it's still happening. I actually think sustainability is partnering with NAU on the Clean Commute Week or Green Transportation Week or whatever they've decided to do it.
I've heard of it.
Okay, I will check back in. And Kim emailed the person who's coordinating Car Free First Fridays recently.
Yeah, you were copied on
Yeah,
that.
I was
I'm like,
copied
how
on
did you
that.
know that?
Yes.
He has your show.
Beautification is partnering with Dre to have that event, and they were meeting the day that I sent the email. So.
More
no
news coming.
updates. no updates. I think it's still happening. I just think they were doing some coordination. It's gonna be the Art X event
Okay.
that beautification has. It's there, it's in coordination.
Can you,
Okay.
you said, say the title of the event again? I didn't catch it.
Art, first
No, not-
car free Friday.
I don't know if it has a formal title, but that was the idea
It's car free, it's the first Friday
of May.
art walk, but car free and Art X. Yeah, put
Yeah.
that in the title. Yeah, type that.
I can also check about I'm pretty sure that any of you folks from the like Green Transportation Week, you were in a meeting where it was mentioned, I think. So I believe that they're already partnering, Aaron Stam is already partnering with Mountain Line to bring a bus to campus, and that they've been in touch with, I think, the city sustainability office. I'm pretty sure. I tried to get some league certified instructors invited to that event, but so far have not had success in conveying what a league certified instructor is to the NAU folks. I'll keep trying.
Oh.
I'll try again.
nice. To all the league certified in Flagstaff at the stable.
I know.
That's literally
It's like
it.
four in a row, right?
I know. I'll work on it. I'll try harder.
Announcements, any other guys? Announcements? Announcements?
Question slash announcement. When we were talking about this meeting schedule for this calendar year, we were talking about having a kind of liaison for each.
Transportation.
Yeah. And then I was like, we are already in March and I don't remember if we
Yeah, we should start going.
we should start doing that.
I saw that in the agenda. Is that what you saw in the agenda?
Oh, was it in the
Or
agenda?
not the agenda, I'm sorry, the draft meeting
Meeting
minutes that
minutes,
we.
yeah. No,
I saw that and I was like, yeah, we did do that.
we gotta do that. So. When's our next
Next,
meeting?
next Transportation Commission is in April, beginning of April. So we won't have another meeting before they have a meeting.
Okay.
You can do it,
In the second half of the year.
you can do it informally. I mean, somebody can decide to go, we don't have an opportunity to kind of talk about it and select somebody.
It's nice being assigned because then it goes on my calendar and then I go.
Would you like to be assigned? to
Yes,
that?
I'll go to the
Okay.
next one. When is the next? one?
Congratulations.
I'll go to the first one. The next one.
First Wednesday in April. I don't.
Okay.
I believe it's April 3rd. They're Wednesdays, every other month on Wednesday, the first Wednesday.
Maybe the second.
Second.
Second Wednesday. Okay.
Go to the next one.
Good now.
Schedule yourself in there.
We can talk about it again before the next one. It'll be two months after April, so that makes it June.
That's too far out. I can't be that far.
And we can talk about it at the next BAC meeting too.
Okay.
Maybe do something formally.
Yes. Get it out of the way. You're going on the next one.
I'm fine with that.
I'm assuming 4:30 or something.
Or, yeah.
4 o'clock.
And then in those same minutes, I think we had promised to send you the Transportation Commission agenda when it becomes available. Like share it with this group.
Yes, please. So do we do the meeting minutes next?
Yeah, just for clarification, there were two sets of complete minutes.
Yes, I saw that.
The ones from the last meeting, February 20th, weren't available.
Well, I appreciate any drop. It's work. Public comments. Public is clamoring to comment.
Any online public comments?
Well, minutes, did anyone have a chance to look at the minutes? Draft minutes? Want to make a motion? I think it was January and February, wasn't it? We can table it, we could.
No, it was January and December, I think, correct?
January, December.
Did you read them, Kevin?
I just started to browse the December. I got about halfway through. I haven't finished the January. I apologize. Also, I'm looking at this minutes. If you look at the February, it says February 20 of 2024. That needs to be 2025.
Attention to
You happen to
detail.
have copies of the minutes?
We can we vote on them next time? Can you put them with the next agenda?
Of course.
And then we'll just vote on them next time.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry. I had planned on doing it and I didn't get them done. I apologize.
I get that. Okay, let's launch into it. Gonna start the count.
Is that us?
That's us.
It's us.
All right,
We're up.
buckle up. Share. Martin, would you mind switching the screens? Right. Everybody online seeing the presentation all right? Thumbs up perhaps?
Yeah, it looks
Yeah.
great.
Cool. Okay, hi, everybody. So we're here to talk about micromobility share program in Flagstaff. We have talked about this briefly a couple of times in previous meetings, and this presentation is follow-up to one that was given to City Council on February 11th, I believe. This is a little bit of an abbreviated presentation compared to what they got, but that one was circulated to the BAC a week or two ago. Also alongside of it is a micromobility share feasibility study from Metro Plan that Kim had most everything to do with. And so there's some components of that that will be discussed in this. The purpose of us being here today is following our council presentation, we received direction to go to various stakeholder groups, committees, and we're sort of in an exploratory phase. We got the go ahead to continue work and do this outreach, and that's kind of where we're at today. So just to preface this presentation, anything to add from the group before we go?
You did a great job.
Thank you. Okay, so agenda for this presentation. What is micromobility share? Why micromobility share? A look into some research from peer cities, and then micromobility share, how it may apply to Flagstaff. You want to take this one, Kim?
Okay. So we are continuing a discussion, a pre-pandemic conversation about micromobility in Flagstaff. There is just a very brief history, kind of snapshot of micromobility share in the United States and North America. Began in around 2008. Flagstaff had, and we'll talk about this later in the presentation, a pilot project with Spin in 2018. And then in 2019, the city entered a contract with the company Gotcha for bike share. Unfortunately, the pandemic happened and supply chains happened, issues and whatnot, and it never came to fruition. Fast forward to 2023, most of the operators have consolidated. It's a much cleaner system than it was. And one of the reasons for this discussion is Flagstaff, our current code states that micromobility share companies may obtain a permit, but there is no permit process. So we are prohibiting any vendors from coming to Flagstaff. So we're talking about this to see which way we should go on that.
Just to see if we should have a process in place that people can ask if they can bring their product here. Right, framing that correctly?
Okay, can you ask that question at the end? Because I think I'm going to answer it throughout the presentation.
Yeah.
If yes, if we want to have it, and if we want to have it, how? Does that make sense? Okay.
Sure.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and just as a bit more context, this conversation has started, we've been kind of meeting as a group for a long time now, maybe last summer, Kim, is that kind of when this effort got underway? And it's generally a bi-weekly meeting between city sustainability, city engineering, metro plan, and NAU.
And the companies want to come. So
Yeah.
they're waiting in the wings. Right after our city presentation, I received 4 emails. Yeah, they were like, boom. Yeah. Oh, we heard you talked about it. Are we good? Kind of a thing. So they're ready. Absolutely.
Good.
Okay.
I like competition on the market.
Yeah.
I think that means lower prices.
Okay.
So
All right.
More of a profit share in our case, right?
can you say which, are you able to say which providers?
I mean, I don't think it's a secret.
Curious.
Is it a secret?
No, I don't
It's not
think
secret.
so. I mean,
It's not a secret.
there's like a few big ones that I'm sure most people are familiar with.
So, yeah, Spin, Bird, we're talking about the big companies or the ones that want to come?
Want to come?
Okay, I was like, wait, okay. I was like, wait, what are we talking about? Populous, which I've never heard of actually, and it's not in this presentation. I was like, wait, who are you? Veo, Spin, and Bird. Those are the 4 that I've been contacted, but I'm assuming that there might be more.
Yeah,
There's a
somebody
few more.
reached out to us. I'm not familiar with, I haven't heard of their company before.
They're definitely wanting to come for sure.
You just need a 4-letter name, and you're good to go.
We'll review, just some basics of micromobility share. So micromobility refers to modes of transportation that include light, low occupancy vehicles, such as e-scooters, e-skateboards, bicycles, and electric pedal assisted bikes or e-bikes. For shared micromobility programs, they're shared amongst the public and available, in your public space, characterized by short-term usage and they're operated and parked in public right-of-way and spaces. Why micromobility share? Kim, do you want to do this one?
Yeah, I can do this one. Okay, so first let's talk about climate action. So obviously micromobility share programs support a decrease in congestion in traffic, and they assist in the reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. As far as physical activity, according to Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health, transportation is one of the most underappreciated but significant determinants of health and well-being. And these shared programs contribute to increased physical activity of the users. If we talk about parking, right? Micromobility share program reduced the need for traditional parking spaces, and tourism. They're an environmentally friendly way to get around town. They promote shopping and exploring in places that you may pass when you're in a car. They also, businesses can have little promotions and discounts for using micromobility share programs. As far as affordability, these devices are, they're affordable in that they provide options for those who may not own or can afford a vehicle. And then there are ways to have discounted pricing for memberships and trips. And I think I got all of them.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So micromobility is supported by Metro Plan and several city planning documents. Goals and policies that micromobility can support are found in the ATMP, Metro Plan's Stride Forward, the Regional Transportation Master Plan, and the Carbon Neutrality Plan. I can do a little.
Yeah,
on
go,
that.
go, go.
So, this is a pretty interesting slide. It shows the various bus stop locations around the city. And, so in blue is the current transit walk shed, but if you look at the brown areas, those are areas that something like an e-scooter or a micromobility share program, areas that could improve access to bus stations. Do you have anything else, Kim?
So when we say first, last mile, we mean the first mile to transit and the last mile after transit. And so that's what we mean by first, last mile. And so these shared programs really do support transit. And obviously Mountain Line is looking, and they would love to have support to improve access to some of their routes.
Okay, micromobility share in peer cities and in Flagstaff. So touched on this a bit in the beginning, but two distinct micromobility share models are, the first is where the program is sort of owned and operated by the city. This is less popular nowadays. Really, it's this latter one that's more popular where the program is third-party operated. The city may receive some financial benefits depending on a contract from the beginning, and e-scooters are the primary devices offered compared to e-bikes. Here's a list of peer cities. 421 cities in North America had a similar program in 2023. From this list, I would probably call out Grand Junction just because it has a fairly similar size to Flagstaff, and keep that in mind as we move to the next slide. But yeah, no doubt that they're pretty widespread across the United States.
And I will add, if that's okay, in Arizona specifically, Yuma, Scottsdale, Phoenix, Tucson, Tempe, Mesa, and Gilbert all have shared micromobility programs.
For comparison from peer cities, this is the image on the left is related to the number of scooters available in their fleet. As calling out Grand Junction again, they had 375. And on the right, just shows growth in dockless bike share e-scooter systems across the last couple of years.
One clarification, the one on the left, is that for a whole year, like the average numbers of scooters deployable?
Active at one time, yes, at one time,
One moment in time.
one moment in time within the city, all that are active.
Like over a year? I guess I'm thinking of snow and like that you might like pull back some of the scooters.
Right, no, that probably doesn't, it's probably just an average. I don't think,
Of a year.
yeah, a day in a year.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just curious.
thank you.
Can you define dockless or docked? What does that refer to?
Yes, that is a great question. So, the shared programs used to have like a station where, I don't know if you've seen them. I've ridden, and you have to put it back on, it charges it. They have devices now, the technology is different, where you don't have to do that. And they charge and they do everything that they need to, and they don't have to be brought back to a specific plate, like to charge, to reset, to do all the things. So that's what I mean by dockless. I do know that there are a lot of capabilities, but I don't know what each vendor's dockless and geofencing and all the technology that's involved in their programs. And that is a question that is on my list to ask vendors when we talk about them. So thank you.
Yeah, and to add to that, I think that one of the biggest differences between a docked system and a dockless is dockless is going to require more oversight by the vendor because general public they have spaces defined within the city that are pretty large usually, and that's where you are able to leave your scooter. And then it's going to be up to the vendor to come get that scooter, maybe recharge it, maybe move it to where it's defined that it might need to be more. There's quite a bit to work through, and that it does require more oversight than a docked system, which kind of helps take care of itself. Yeah. You want to go on this?
Sure. So when we were doing our peer city research, obviously the city investment, it varies with each program. So some cities are paid through fees and some aren't. Some invest city time, staff time. And so this one was kind of all over the place, and the programs were tailored to whatever they needed, the staff that they had available and all the things. So this one is hard to, say 7 out of 10 did this or whatever. So, but I would say probably half of the cities were paid back through some financial agreements and fees built into the agreement and the contract.
Nice.
Okay.
And yeah, just to touch on city staff time, as this contract or permit would enter the scene, we, as the city, would need to dedicate some form of staff time to its oversight. And depending on how involved that contract might be, would dictate how involved that staff person or how much of their time it might take up. So that's an important relationship to kind of establish oversight versus.
And I just thought of something. So Fort Collins, for instance, has and their program with SPIN is through a contract or an RFP system, and they have one staff member that dedicates 1/4 of their time to the program itself. Versus Santa Monica, let's say, their program is through a permitting process, more like a free market kind of a thing. Competition, and they have several different companies that have these devices within, and they have one staff member who half their time is dedicated to the program, but they also have a code enforcement person that spends a small portion of their time with the program. So it just depends on each city.
Mr. Chair, there's an online comment.
Okay. What is it?
Chris, do you want to make your comment, or do you want me to read it for the group?
If you could share it, Martin.
Okay. It says the vendors have used for scooters in Europe gave incentives for leaving a scooter in a certain location that made upkeep easier.
This is still like a free ride for somebody later on down the road if they were.
Or
responsible for their
discounts
scooter.
probably or something. It could also go the other way.
Like penalties for.
And there's penalties for not putting it in the, so it can go both ways, whatever the program.
Okay.
I like incentives better than penalties
Yeah.
personally.
Yeah, I rode one of these in DC once and I wanted to stop riding it, and I found out quickly that I couldn't stop until I was somewhere far away from where I was, which got expensive. So, yeah.
But you'll never make that mistake again, right?
I hope not. I mean,
It's another scooter in DC.
yeah, that's, we'll see.
No, thank you for that, Chris.
Can I start here?
So this, like we mentioned earlier, is just a snapshot of the pilot that the city had with Spin, and this was bike share. So this was not scooters and the whole shebang, not even e-bikes. So I think it was just bikes. And
What color were the bikes again? Weren't they orange? Okay.
there it is. Everyone's like, oh yeah, I remember that. Just a little snapshot. There were just under 3,000 trips taken within the 6-month pilot. Most of those were, a good portion were from students between 7 p.m. and 3 a.m. The average distance was less than a mile. So just a little snapshot. It was a success. It was great. But yeah, then I think what happened was Spin wanted to move into e-scooters and the city wasn't ready. And so I think that's what happened with that program. Yeah. I remember talking about it.
Yeah, I think that was what led us into talking about where should scooters go and where should they not go, and there were some rules made. I think they're only allowed in the bike lanes downtown or something.
Yeah, there's definitely some rules and regulations on where they can be ridden. And these are just e-bikes. Now there are some free scooters too, I think, right? Martin?
In terms of the rules and regulations.
Of where they can be ridden?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that's what I thought. Okay, cool.
I would characterize the process that we went through as being more heavily weighted towards discussion of e-bikes and where they should be. And I think scooters were part of it, but I don't think they received the same level of attention at that time as e-bikes did. So while we made rules for them, we didn't talk about it as much or have as much discussion about it. That wasn't at the kind of the top of mind like e-bikes were at the time.
I think I remember talking about scooters at length, about, mostly the cons of scooters. That's what I remember.
Just one observation on the map is, like the thick lines is where there's not great transit connections currently, like where it's like north of the hospital and like east, of 166. That's just kind of interesting, as well as like going from on the east side to the southeast side, like there's not great transit connection. So maybe those help fill in some of the gaps potentially.
The thing we noticed in that graph on the lower right is that there was a lot of bike use after normal transit hours.
Right.
Yeah, so it seemed to kind of fill in that gap as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll get into some managing risks and challenges. Yeah, I know you want to do this.
I just updated this slide. I did. I put the code in. I'm sorry if it's terrible.
Oh, it's good.
Creating the right system is what helps you manage the risk, right? There's benefits and risks that all need to be weighed and discussed. So the next slides that you're going to see are what the group deemed high impact risks. And so we also provided possibilities on ways to mitigate those risks. And so we're not suggesting anything. These are the topics that we thought would be, important to discuss when talking about micromobility share.
Oh, just keep rolling.
You want me to just keep rolling? Here it is, all the notes right here. Okay, so obviously injury. And this would be risks to the person who crashed and the device. And so some possibilities, we listed them there, but just a couple highlights would be obviously waivers signed, whether it's on the app or whatever, before you're allowed to use the device. Maybe a short education on how to use them and, kind of proper usage to minimize a risk. And then obviously with the vendor, some sort of contract liability that the vendor would need to have as well. So everyone has to have liability in check. But also there are some risks that might be assumed, right? Because just like anything else, you can have the safest car on the planet and people still get injured sometimes. So those are just thoughts on personal injury. Device parking. So it's really cool how many devices you can put in a traditional parking spot, which is kind of neat. But also we need to make sure that these devices do not block sidewalks or prevent access to buildings. And we don't want to take up all the parking spaces, of course. The geofencing is a tool that these companies have, and it's a digital tool that allows remote device control, and it's useful in preventing illegal parking, right? By Chris.
In the National Mall.
Or writing or putting limits on restricted areas. I've heard of some of these devices, you know, you're cruising along and then you get to an area where there's a lot of pedestrians and all of a sudden it goes, "Ooh," and you can't go fast anymore. You know, kind of a thing. You can put restrictions on these devices, which is really interesting. It controls your speed limits. And you can collect data on who's using them, when, and all that kind of stuff, which would be, you know, good for future. You could also implement a parking incentive program, right? And I named mine Park Smart Ride More. Anyway, and it's reward system for points for proper parking, kind of like what Chris said. And educational campaigns and like a leaderboard who has, you know, the best parking or the best whatever usage of the devices. You can make a really fun incentive, a good reward incentive program rather than penalizing all the time. Anyway, those were, and then the other list of the strategies, I don't feel the need to name all the bullet points, but.
Sure, yeah.
This is you.
Yeah. Okay, so this third risk, limited staff time for oversight. City staff will largely be responsible for vendor management, and there will inevitably be complaints to the city, even if complaints are directed on the device to the vendor. So there's going to need to be somebody who's responsible for managing that. Strategies for mitigation, potentially hire new staff to contract with micromobility share staff to specifically oversee the system. Other levels of assistance from AmeriCorps or intern opportunities, operator fees should include enough revenue to pay for support staff. Ultimately, best idea is going to be to put as much responsibility on the vendor as possible, and considering a pre-launch community outreach campaign. Next risk, public perception. This could be, well, it would be quite a change to see these scooters enter the scene across the city. Change can be hard. So strategies to help mitigate that. A sound marketing campaign, working with downtown businesses and neighborhoods ahead of time, making sure that the relationship between the city and the vendor is efficient and maintenance of devices is in good shape, so that it doesn't feel like they're cluttered around the city. Implementation planning ahead of time to make sure that they're just well managed and maintained, and also quick response time to complaints, which goes back to sound management.
And in addition, I think that being super proactive and addressing concerns as they happen, and really highlighting the benefits of shared micromobility programs, and making sure the vendors deliver a user-friendly experience for the user. But just to really explain the you know why these are great programs, and just really be open and honest, and just really try to manage those risks. And you know, behavior change is difficult, but I think it could be a really great system for Flagstaff.
Compliance with bike ordinances.
Yeah,
Sure.
sure. Yeah, where are these things gonna be ridden, right? So obviously the use of geofencing would be very, very important in this instance, but also the incentivizing for good behavior, I think would be really, really important. And education maps at local businesses, and really, yeah, the education prior for the user, where they're to be ridden, following rules of the road, the whole bit, I think can go a long way to compliance with this. So, yeah.
Sure.
What else?
I guess just to address it, because I know we have talked about it in BAC before, and I'm talking about the second bullet on the right, consider changes to the code.
But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it before. If you look at Flagstaff City Code, there are places where bikes can ride legally on the sidewalk across the city, but e-scooters are prohibited from that. So if you think about places that are hard to ride across from, like if you're trying to go from one part of the city to another, there might not be great bike infrastructure, and that's when you would probably hop on the sidewalk. Scooters generally, like technically, are not supposed to be able to do that. So.
And when we're talking about these programs in our peer research, 70% of the devices within a program are the e-scooters. So it is majority e-scooters rather than the e-bikes. So I just wanted to make that clear that we will definitely need to address the scooter issue. Great opportunity.
That's really good, so.
They're here.
They're here.
Yeah.
These are a few risks that were identified as medium impact. I don't think that we need to go into them specifically, but please, if you're interested, feel free to review the feasibility study where these are investigated.
It's only 30 some zillion pages long, so there's a lot of information for you to read.
What was that last slide? Company viability? Oh, the viability of the company, the third party vendor?
Yeah, I believe that's what we're getting at here. It sounds like, going back to what happened with Gotcha, there was a contract in place and it fell through before anything even really got underway. Like these companies seemed to pop up and some of them are gone as quickly as they came on the scene. Some are bigger and more successful now, and that might be more of a dependable, trustworthy experience.
And also, I know that one concern many people have is devices everywhere. And what happens if the company goes and we're littered with all these devices all over town. So there needs to be some sort of strategy in place of what happens if something happens to the company, they go under or whatever, something that the city is not liable for these devices, but that the company needs to, we can hold them to their contract. So, just that's what we mean by company viability is if something happened to the company, we're stuck with all these devices all over the place. That's willy-nilly, and we don't want that, so.
First come, first serve, like,
Right.
get them while they're still available.
And we take them to the NAU surplus set. Well, what is unbanked, equity unbanked low income?
Sure. So what is being referred to there is in order to begin a ride on one of these scooters, you generally need a phone and a bank account to be able to download the app and connect your bank to that app and pay for your ride and get charged for it and start it and end it. And not everybody has access to that. Not everybody has a smartphone. Not everybody has a bank account. And if these are going to be a tool to improve equitable access across the city, what do you need to consider to make it so?
No, thank you for considering that. That's important.
There's a whole nother slide on it.
Yep.
Specifically on equity.
Okay,
Here we go.
yes.
Yeah, there you go. So the thought is, I know that Mountain Line offers free passes, and those are distributed. I know I've seen them distributed at Health and Human Services, and maybe something similar to that can happen. There are definitely options for, maybe there's a cash payment system, or there needs to be some way that you can access the devices without a phone. And these are questions that I would ask the vendor and how do they manage that? Because our equity concerns are not the only concerns. Everyone needs to discuss equity with these. But definitely subsidizing some of the ride fares and those kinds of things are ways. Also distributing the devices in places where they would be needed, such as Health and Human Services, the jail, the hospital,
Yeah.
transit centers,
Mhm.
right? The places where people who might not have a vehicle
Yeah,
would need to be transported somewhere.
yeah.
Question. You talked before about, this kind of variation among communities in terms of how involved the local government is in managing or oversight. Is there a correlation between equity considerations and how much oversight there is? In other words, if left to their own devices entirely, how much equity would the vendors or the companies build into their system? Or does that require the government to
Yeah.
impose that on vendors?
Yeah, that's an important consideration, I think during implementation planning. I think it's something that gets agreed to upfront. Well, as you're working towards a contract, if that's something. that you
Regardless
want to
of the
pursue.
system, it needs
Yeah.
to be part of the permit process or part of the contract negotiations.
To speak to that a little, a couple of months ago, Kim and I got to get on a video call with somebody from the city of Denver to talk with. They represented their micromobility share program. They were the staff member that we've been referring to who manages the relationship with vendors and enforces the contract that's in place. And one of the interesting things that they did as far as equity considerations is they had equity areas identified in a few places around the city. And they helped to enforce a stipulation in the contract that scooters or devices needed to be distributed to those areas every day. I believe it was every day.
And redistributed, I guess in a 24-hour period, there had to be a certain number, right, in these areas or something.
Yeah, I don't quite recall, but that was the general idea. Yeah, and yeah, Martin, that definitely, there's a relationship there between how much oversight you want to put out as a city and how intense your equity efforts are. Okay. Yep.
So, to conclude, the feasibility report, Metroplan and Mountain Line recommend that the partners, and this is what we're doing right now, exploring these programs and guidelines and really trying to decide if this is, and be very intentional to decide if we want to have a micromobility share program come to Flagstaff and how we would like it to look, because we are in the driver's seat. And I think it's important to consider it. And so we're recommending that definitely we look into this and really trying to be thoughtful to bring micromobility share to Flagstaff.
Right.
Now,
Moving into
we're not done.
yeah,
by the way.
towards the end.
If you thought we were, sorry.
It probably did seem like we
It did, it totally did.
Yeah, that did sound like it.
Okay.
And in conclusion, there is more.
Yeah.
All right. Options for micromobility share in Flag. Oh, I gotta give this to you, Kim.
Oh.
Kim's.
That's such a nice graphic.
I know.
Okay, this was literally yesterday, and thank you to Jamie for saving the initial one that I put together. Was terrible. Okay, so flow chart time. So if the city wanted to have a micromobility share program, if they're like, no way, right? Then we need, as a city, we need to change the code to permit these vendors for coming. So we need to change that code that's already in place. If yes, there are two options, and this is very high level, by the way, because the feasibility study has pages and pages of this information, but we just took this high level. So yes, we can go through the permit process, and we can really be detailed and specific in our permitting process. For instance, Tucson has a 12-page permit process for any vendor that comes in these, yes. And so we could really update that permitting process. We can open it to vendors and then we can have someone in code enforcement or whatever. But this would potentially bring multiple vendors, free market, right? If you're a great program and you have a good user-friendly experience, then you'll succeed. If you're not, you're going to tank, right? Or the contract or a vendor, which would be one vendor, and the city enters, opens, develops an RFP process, request for proposals, and then they vet the applicants that apply, go through contract negotiations. City council will need to approve this contract, and then engineering or whatever staff needs to happen will need to happen. But this would mean only one vendor comes to the area. Did that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, there you go.
Can I get just, if you can go back to that next, that last slide.
The one prior to this?
Oh, no, this one right here.
Okay.
For the people on the BAC, just from what you've heard, where do you sit on this? If we call this first one, this first green option, change code to prohibit micro mobility vendors. The second green option, we'll call it B, RFP one vendor only, or the third, permit multiple vendors. If you had to vote today, A, B, or C, which way are you guys? We'll start with.
I mean, I have no thoughts on B versus C, but I think we should do this. And see what it's like.
Not A.
Not A.
Okay, where are you at, Estella?
I'm similar. I think it's more of a city decision between B or C. However, since Gotcha didn't work out, which was 2020, I mean, since 5 years, like basically option B takes a lot more effort from the city and a lot more oversight. And I would say there's been little progress until now to really do option B. So option C is the easiest, I feel like, from a city perspective. You can just update your permit and see what happens. And I would say there's little risk of like a whole bunch of scooters coming here. There's really only a handful of viable. I'm actually surprised you received 4 because like Bird is bankrupt. So like, it's just like, I don't know. So it's like, there's fewer vendors than there were like in 20 or like pre-pandemic. So yeah, not a strong opinion between B or C, but C is easier.
Yeah, I would agree with this, Stella. I mean,
B or C?
yeah, B or C, A's right now.
So I was thinking about this last night. I know you have more people to.
She was.
Okay, okay, I'll tell you my thought afterwards.
Hi, this is Kevin. I would say C personally.
C personally? Okay.
Yeah, this is Jen. I'd say B or C, and I guess I would be kind of interested in gathering some more information from those other communities who have this program, and like if they found it to be successful, if they used one vendor, if they used multiple vendors, if it has reduced, traffic congestion, increased parking, and if just more information on if it's been successful and which vendor they've used.
Are you okay? Hi, you're muted.
Wait, could you hear me? Could you hear that whole thing that I just said?
Yes.
I heard yours, Jen.
Okay.
But I can't hear Kai.
Oh, okay, got it.
It's having audio issues.
Audio issues. You're not muted, but you're muted.
How about that? Can you hear me?
Got it.
Yeah.
Your Bluetooth kicked in.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just wondering, for option C, what is the likelihood that we would actually see multiple vendors, supplying devices here? I mean, it would not be great to be stuck with one vendor that we don't like, or goes bankrupt or whatever. But, I do wonder if multiple vendors did, stock devices here, would that be too much for, people to grasp? Like, is that too overwhelming or confusing? I don't know, just a thought, but definitely think we should go forward with micromobility in general. I would just like to see, yeah.
Yeah, and I'd vote C.
Just one comment on the no. I do think what needs to happen regardless is update as much as updating city code. Like, I don't want to go through that of changing where scooters are allowed or not allowed. I think that needs to happen regardless, because like scooters are here. I mean, I live by NAU, so I feel like there's more scooters than bikes nowadays, but that's like a bias from where I live, but that's just one comment. Like, I think there's still.
Right, and there's more than just scooters, by the way, you know, one wheels and all that other stuff. I mean, it's a whole, you know, added.
Yeah, I agree with this, Stella. When I just biked over here from Killip and I saw 4 scooters on the road and 2 bikes. On Route 66 too, like in the road, not on the path.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they are here, 100%. So addressing concerns regardless of if there's a shared program in town, right? They're all over NAU campus for sure. I'm pretty sure the whole football team has scooters. Yeah, anyway, so definitely. And to your point, I guess it depends on, I have a lot of thoughts in my head. So like I said, some of the cities went, and Jen, a lot of this information is in the feasibility study. Just so you know, we went into detail on our peer city. We just didn't give you every single thing that we found, just so you know. But yeah, it just depends on how the city wanted to tackle this. You know, Santa Monica is our size.
Yeah.
About,
Yeah.
and they have three micro, and it seems to work. And then Denver has one, and actually, interestingly enough, I think Denver, Boulder, all of those, they're all looking at combining into one big system because they travel, right? Jurisdictions. They'll be on city roads, county roads, NAU. They're going to be all over. So.
Question regarding multiple vendors and the geofencing and how they share the space that's allotted. I mean, have you looked into that?
No, but geofencing, it's one of the questions that,
Yeah,
I want to
see what you're getting at.
yeah,
Just since the space could be limited in some of these more dense areas of use and whatnot.
absolutely. I think you have a
Yeah.
very good question.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be a consideration, depending on what we hear from committees and commissions and just general stakeholder outreach. Following is going to be working with vendors to kind of see what is offered and what's available, and maybe learn about some experience of different vendors combining on a permit. Because you want to make sure that geofence is set and all of them abide by the same one.
Like a shared use agreement somehow, yeah.
Yeah, good.
Thank you.
Okay. I feel like we've covered a lot of this, so I think that we can move through it. This is just a chart showing the various steps of implementation. You can see where we are.
I didn't do that. This is Jamie also.
So, our ultimate goal from this phase is to build a recommendation for action and then return to council with it. That could lead to us opening a procurement or permit process, then to vendor selection, planning for a successful launch and implementation, launching the program, and then ongoing support that would be necessary. But know where we are. Here's our list of the various commissions, committees, stakeholders that we are contacting at this time through this exploratory phase. And this is the first one that we've done, BAC. Plenty more to come.
Obviously, because I feel like I'm a little rough on this one, so I apologize.
Next is PAC, I think, and we have, it should be wrapped up pretty much in the next 2 months about, right?
Yeah, I think like April 24th.
Okay.
That's our last meetings.
So. Yeah, I've seen that, but many times.
How about, what do you plan for, like community or public outreach at this point?
Stay tuned.
Oh.
Okay, sorry.
There's another slide.
All right, seeking direction. Okay, so I guess I'm gonna jump one ahead because Martin just brought this up, and then we're gonna go back and have conversation on that last slide. Do you want to do this one?
Sure. So we are in the works of developing a survey to like gauge community interest. And it's gonna be posted on Connect Flagstaff, hopefully out before, I think, April 15th, roughly.
Yeah, you said there's an Earth Day event that.
Yeah, that we want to try to table at and get the public's opinion. So we're still crafting that survey and exactly what we want to get out of it. But once we have it done, we will send it out to commissions and also get some feedback there.
Are you gonna try to circulate that to NAU in any way?
So we haven't, we just started this survey discussion, and it definitely needs a lot of consideration and to be done right. And we need to make sure that we access not just one segment of the community, which would be very easy to do with something like this. So I don't have a great answer for you right now, but we are beginning to strategize.
About how you would actually
And
push it out?
leaning on our past experiences too, because I think Martin has published 1 or 2 surveys before.
Only one. And Aaron Stan,
Yeah,
he is.
that's who I was thinking
Yeah.
of, yeah.
Does that answer your question, Martin?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so this is where we really want to hear from you guys. We're hoping to get, just discuss these 3 bullets. Let's start with the first one. And yeah, let's just let it roll.
My thought is, I am not anti-scooter, but I am pro-bicycle. And I do not want to see a program come here that offers 100% scooters. I think 70-30 is about as much as I would be comfortable with as far as our town goes. I really love the bicycles, and you talk about the physical activity component of it. I would love to see regular bicycles be a part of the program.
Acoustic.
Not E, but
No,
Right.
with e-bikes. I'm not saying
Oh.
limited, but I would like to see
Yeah.
regular bicycles be a part of the program.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Yes.
Sure, bike shops will too.
Is what? I'm sorry.
Bike shops will appreciate that as well.
Yeah, for sure. Val?
I guess I'm less like 70-30. I totally get where you're coming from. I mean, I think in general, there's just such a potential to benefit the community and cut down on traffic and cut down on vehicle miles traveled that I'm like, okay, whoever can get here, like respond to the emails tomorrow. Like, that sounds great.
Yeah, I just want to say, like, in my personal experience, when I've traveled to other cities that have these programs, I've exclusively used the scooters, just because I don't know, I like riding my bike, but I like riding my bike, and I find the scooters less cumbersome. I do wonder how, if at all, equipped scooters would be to the urban trail, specifically the gravel trails, because that makes up so much of our safe kind of bikeways. I'm not sure if they're even allowed on those trails or how that works.
Yeah, that's a good consideration.
Yeah, that's really cool. So yeah, the vendors might want a mix of bikes and scooters kind of to meet that.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Stella, you're gonna say something.
Yeah, considerations for the either permit or procurement, as much as like all these things that we want, I think that was the downfall of the gotcha of like being so like, you have to do this, you have to do that. Like, the procurement, I think, was like a good 20 pages of scope of like all these things that a vendor has to abide by, which I think just, there's not a lot of vendors anymore. And like, they're losing money. Like they're just at a different place than they were. So I think just being kind of finding that balance of like wanting something, but also like being willing to negotiate and like compromise. And then just one general comment is I think a lot of the risks can be avoided. And I would like in the presentation, if the city and Metro Plan agree, is like a lot of them can be avoided if like we stop prioritizing cars, like especially like the high injury, like if we were to slow down speeds, like, you know, add better bike infrastructure, like that's the biggest way we can reduce that risk. And like parking, like especially in downtown, like willing to remove car parking spots and add like special zones, like for, so I think that's just like the main driver to mitigate a lot of the, not all of them, but a good chunk of the risks that were listed. I feel like just if it's a switch in mindset.
Geofence the cars.
Well, that's, I'm very hesitant about geofencing, especially speed, because I know like a lot of times speed is geofenced in downtown areas. Like our downtown does not have bike lanes, so I wouldn't want to be on a scooter going 10 miles per hour
In a traffic
in
lane.
traffic lane, and then
Yeah.
we're not allowed on sidewalks. So I think
Yeah.
it's just being weary of like where geofencing makes sense. And I think it's easy to just be like everywhere, like we don't want scooters in certain spots, but I think that's, yeah, just being, I guess, mindful of that.
I mean, I think it's micromobility is absolutely a good thing. And I think you're gonna face a lot of headwinds in people's perceptions of scooters and scooter riders specifically. I know in lots of conversations I have, even with folks like the folks in this room, people don't like scooters. And I think in particular, don't like young people riding scooters, if I'm being like totally candid with what I think the actual complaints are about.
On the sidewalk, yeah.
On the sidewalk,
That's
yeah,
what it is.
with wearing headphones, without lights, you know, whatever, it goes on and on. And I'm not saying those aren't safety concerns, but they are largely safety concerns for the person who is making those choices. And yet, even when you present it to council, immediately people just started complaining about scooter operators. And in a balanced way, like not everyone on council said they didn't want micromobility, but I do feel like that's gonna be tough. Just sort of public opinion about scooters and who is most likely to use scooters. So I think this doesn't relate necessarily to permitting, but in terms of planning for implementation, I feel like you might have some good PR to, like, maybe some public relations stuff would be helpful to sort of promote, not only explain why these are helpful, but also to suggest that they're actually for multiple uses and that current residents who are not NAU students could use them too, even if the data says that maybe a third of them are for NAU students. That still means like 2/3 are not.
Oh, 100%,
Or,
yeah.
you know, my math is slightly off because it's 2.7, but still.
You think demographic data on scooter users would be helpful if
Just like
available,
maybe.
just to show that there's more?
Yeah, to show that it's not all NAU students, even again, if they are a big chunk, I'm not saying we shouldn't take them into account, that's useful. But I feel like in many conversations about alternative transportation, as soon as students get brought into it, people are much more negative about it. And that can be really tricky with something that is more popular with like young folks. So even just like, I don't know, not that you have an ad budget, but like if you did, I see lots of folks who own their own scooters in town who are not students as far as, or if they are non-traditional students based on their age. So, you know, something like that might be useful.
How, so like, do the companies have liability insurance for if people get in? So if you wanted to drive a car in Arizona, you have to have $25,000 of liability insurance, right?
Okay.
So
100% believe you,
yeah,
yes.
that's the minimum
Yeah.
liability policy in Arizona that you can buy. So like, if you hit somebody and hurt them, you automatically have $25,000 to help them if they're injured. If you're walking on the sidewalk and someone smashes into you with a scooter, it's gonna injure you. And in that case, is that just an uninsured person who's just like, oh, sorry, you're screwed?
I don't have an answer to your question. Because I
That would be a
don't-
question.
That's a good question for the vendors.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree. with you.
Do they carry at least a minimal liability policy for if someone gets injured by someone riding their scooters?
Yep.
Maybe why they're all bankrupt. I don't know.
It could be, yeah.
Back to your comment earlier about the downtown historic district not being able to ride a bike or a scooter on a sidewalk and not having a dedicated lane for bikes and scooters in the roadway. I'm wondering if in a bigger picture, is that a problem we should try to solve? I mean, one obvious solution would be to eliminate parking on one side of San Francisco and Beaver and make that into a scooter bike lane. Now, obviously, taking away that many parking places in the downtown area would there'd be an uproar, but it would be a longer term solution to our micromobility and bicycle safety. I just bring it up as an issue as to whether we might try to solve that problem before bringing in micromobility.
I vote yes.
I don't know if I would wait to bring in a micromobility until after we solve that problem, but absolutely it needs to be solved. I mean, I think even with the like Beaver pilot program with this curbs and whatever they were called, a major problem of that is that, you know, Beaver doesn't have a bike lane the whole way. And so you're in and out of the lane, in and out of the lane. And if you want to put scooters by the hospital to service people accessing medical services, you're in the road. And then you're in a lane. So yeah, I think that would be amazing. I think we should eliminate a whole lane of traffic. But that's me.
I mean, we could do that tomorrow.
We can.
Yeah.
Decide to work on that, regardless of scooter share.
Yeah.
Hey, Kevin, I don't think we've heard from you. What do you got?
No, I've just been listening to you all. I agree with where you're at, and I love where the conversation's going. And I love the idea of going down to one lane.
Just one more comment, because that reminded me of like all these issues, even all these risks, like it's not a micro mobility problem. It really, like, these are all issues that exist currently. So I just want to kind of remind, I know I just want to bring that forward. Like, it's like, yeah, it's this program is not bringing forward those problems. They're already existing and these are just heightening them.
Yeah, that's a good point. And yeah, and I mean, it's in a lot of ways, it is where we want to get to, more micro mobility. And if a company comes in and is able to provide those products that gets people out of their cars, then it's awesome, right? Like, but yeah, we want that anyway, and we're gonna have to solve those issues. And if this is an impetus for bringing those to light and making them more of a priority, then great. But if it doesn't happen, then we have to continue being the loud voices in the room, the annoying people.
Question, which maybe you've come across in your conversations with other cities. For a lot of these share programs, do the scooters have lights on them already, like built-in lights? Do they rent helmets with them? Because I know they're not like required under the law, right?
They are not. No, and that's something that's
Yeah.
personal use.
It is touched on in the feasibility study as well, potential solutions. But I think, yeah, I mean, it's a risk that is assumed by the rider. Yeah, I mean, it's something that happens. I'm sure you, on your way here, that's the case with one of those scooter riders probably, right? Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
It's kind of an ongoing challenge because people don't travel with helmets. And like sharing helmets, it feels different than sharing bowling shoes, for example.
Okay, if we're good, I'm gonna keep us moving to this second bullet. Some of our discussion has already been, so it kind of falls under this. But as far as special considerations, we should incorporate to the procurement process. There's a few examples up there, but this is especially important as we think about approaching vendors with questions. So any thoughts here?
Yes. I will, echo Stella's comments about having less barriers, and to pick our battles. So for the special rate and or free passes for low income community members, I feel like if the city is going to receive some kind of compensation from the use of these, that we should use a part of that money to fund the low income component of it. And not make that a sticking point and say, we're gonna take care of our people.
Just one comment, and maybe you've done this already, but it could be helpful to get the contracts and or permits from specifically the smaller cities. Because revenue is generated by number of rides. So I think like the Denver is not really applicable because they're making so much more money than Flagstaff would. But really see kind of what stipulations they have. And
Yeah.
that could, maybe again, you may have already done that.
Well, what is time of use?
Is that, I don't know. Who put- that was it.
Yeah, so this is like,
I didn't write that one.
yeah, so mitigating like the time of use, so like we have the ability to like say like when they can use the scooters or not, or if like there's like a lot of freedom that we could have working with companies to, like mitigate like the geofencing and the prices, or not prices, but yeah, but so time of use, so we could like cut it off, I think, after a certain amount of time. So I don't know what they did with Gotcha.
Do you
but,
mean per like length of one trip or like time of day?
Like, I think, I was talking with Nicole about this, and I think that you have the ability to say like, okay, well, maybe if it's too dangerous to ride after 2 a.m. because of people maybe like drinking on the roads, that they could make the scooters like not usable after that.
Understood.
Person take a scooter then.
Yeah, I would want to sort of do that. Yeah, and I want to limit time of use.
Yeah, I guess that this could also apply to seasonal considerations.
That's what
Yeah.
I want.
Yeah.
Snow.
Yeah. We asked Denver, because Denver receives snow. And we asked them what they generally do, because that was one of our bigger concerns. And I think that they have the ability, it was kind of interesting. There was like, if it's below 20 degrees or something like that, the scooters don't function properly, so they just like
They just
stop
shut
the
them off.
system until conditions improve.
Or if they get a big storm and it's not safe because
Yeah.
roads haven't been cleared and all that. It's like a.
So there's a kill switch for the entire system?
Yeah, I would absolutely say so. It's like it would be through the same technology that like the same communication as geofencing.
Interesting.
Yeah, but Denver, they don't pick them all up for the winter.
Yeah, they do,
They
and
leave
people
them.
still take rides over the winter too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of a question I had. Like if we look at those scooters in Tempe, for example, right? And you see downtown Tempe, every single corner, there's 10, 15 spread scooters all around the corners. We add that to Flagstaff with a snowstorm and shoveling, it could be an interesting winter. You know what I mean? Just think it would need to have considerations for some of that, or at least to account for some of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, looking to some of the snowier cities, to just see what their process is as far as do they take, because
Exactly.
really inevitable that a scooter is going to get shoved into a snowbank somewhere, I mean, not just one, so being conscious of that, through, implementation is important. Or, considerations for potential procurement?
Do any of the companies that you are aware of do like a combination of some docked and some dockless? Like, could you have a handful of docks and then also free floating, or if you had bikes and scooters, could you have the bikes be docked and the scooters not, vice versa? Does that exist?
That's a great question. I don't know. Kim might know it. I don't personally know if people are still using dock systems.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
feel like those were older systems. like
Yeah.
The city bikes
Yep.
and, yeah.
Can you separate, like if you have a station, the ones that charge versus that places that are just a group area to
Right.
leave scooters or
Yeah, I
bikes?
was just wondering if that's possible or if it's like you have to pick one or the other when you go with a vendor.
It would be interesting to see what a vendor says around docked systems at all. You know, I don't know if that's still something that they're
Aren't the
gung ho
Tucson's-
about putting
the
out.
Tucson bikes
necessarily.
are docked,
Yeah,
right? The-
I don't
Yeah,
know. Yeah.
and that's the most recent dock system in the state that I can think of, but y'all probably know.
Yeah, we'll have to, yeah.
Yeah, yes.
I'm pretty sure Denver, so they're not official docks, but they are like zones, like parking areas.
Yeah.
And I think you get like $1 back if you park there versus not in a zone you like. So I think it's like that in Denver.
Does the vendor do those or does the city
Yeah.
define those? Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
both. Okay.
Yeah, that was a topic of our conversation with the representative from Denver. I think that they have over 400 zones identified across the city, if I'm remembering correctly. And that is absolutely something that the city has to help with upfront, you know? And just to put it into perspective on this, like extra city staff situation, like we don't necessarily have it in our job description to do this. So it would require a rework or bringing somebody new in, which was our suggestion to council as well. That was part of the council recommendation was adding a staff member to engineering who could help oversee this.
Imagine involving streets in these conversations too, just thinking about how, we have plowed and what we see every winter and just, trying to walk down a sidewalk that might be heavily used by these systems, just putting that out there, like the realistic ability for that to be mitigated with other things on the sidewalk. I just,
We have been in communication with streets, and they are definitely, Sam was on the call on the earlier. But we are definitely, they're supportive, and trying to figure out the best way to move forward.
Oh, good. Yeah, during spring break this year, just last week, I was in Lisbon, Portugal. And they have a big ride share program there. They have docked bikes, they have dockless bikes, they have scooters, lots of scooters. And it appears to me that the food delivery people have taken to the e-scooters and they actually use them a lot.
Aubrey was just in France. She said, city workers will carry huge, long poles on bikes and e-bikes and scooters and stuff, like carrying equipment to job sites.
Yeah, it looks like the local economy has incorporated them,
Interesting.
which I thought was excellent because, I mean, you talk about getting people out of cars. If you can get employees out of cars, if you can get people who are doing their jobs out of cars. I mean, there are people who put those square backpacks full of food right along on their e-scooters. But, yeah, they definitely have. So on this special considerations, it's not on here's. These are examples that we had, but are you guys considering saying it needs to have a certain amount of bicycles, a certain percentage of bicycles?
I mean, I wrote down your
Okay.
comment, but in general of the peer cities, it was, I feel like it was 75-25.
Or more as far as,
I
yeah.
mean, it's
Smaller
more,
scooters.
more scooters
for
than
sure.
bikes, but the
Yeah.
bikes were there.
Present, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
And have you guys talked about that in your own meetings about if you want to see that or if that's something that you're,
I just assumed that there would be both.
okay?
Yeah, I think we, in our meetings and just generally are of the opinion that we want both and welcome both. However, the market kind of dictates that it's likely going to be scooters, so that's sort of what the presentation is charged towards, if that makes sense. Because that's what is being successful in making companies money in other cities, is scooter rides.
Does that mean it's an open question if we require bikes or we let the vendors dictate whatever mix they want to have, which may or may not include bikes?
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that's really what we want to determine from this round of exploration with our stakeholders and yeah, that it'll be included.
Yeah, because I think if you
Yeah.
leave it up to the vendors, they're gonna say 100% scooters.
So, yeah, I wrote it down because it's definite, it's a good consideration that it needs to be on the list of discussions or in a permit or in a contract or whatever. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, great.
When Spin was here, we stipulated that we get all this cool information from them, on their rides. That we can use to make maps and stuff like that. Can we do that too? Can you see if that's in contracts?
You want to make maps?
You want-
Data, he wants data.
We want data, we want data. Data.
Yeah, that is one of the benefits of it. So 100% Martin.
We don't know what we're gonna do with it, but we want data.
Yeah, the data.
I know what we're gonna do with it.
How successful.
We're gonna do PowerPoint slides for the VAC.
We are gonna do PowerPoint slides.
Can I ask a question?
Roger, up 10.
So it seemed everyone is in favor, which is great. But can I have a little more direction on what process everyone's feeling? RFP or perm, I know, I'm gonna do it. I'm just curious. Everyone doesn't care, but I
I recorded kind of a preference for C.
Yeah, I think.
see multiple vendors, free market.
Yes, like Kevin Hayes, I say C as well, I think.
Yeah, I just want to bring up, as far as we were talking about B versus C, one of the important considerations around C is code compliance being involved, and they haven't really been a part of the conversation yet. A lot of it has been engineering being prepared to, get an extra staff member and be able to manage and oversee the program. So it's just, I guess, we have to take some more steps if that's the direction that we're
Right.
heading.
I have seen, I think San Francisco, they use their parking, people who are checking parking as also code compliance for scooters.
Coordination with Park Flag, that would be awesome.
That was my thinking, but I don't wanna.
Yeah.
Sure, they've already got
do.
badges and uniforms and
They're already out there.
yeah, they've got the infrastructure. There's a comment from Chris, I see. You want to read his comment?
Sure, she says, I have no intention to buy a scooter, but would happily rent one to make trips when my bike isn't available or feasible.
Nice.
Right. Okay, any thoughts on this last bullet point? We've talked about equity considerations already. Is there any ideas or emphasis that we want to discuss as a group?
I think I'd echo what Estella said later. The major problems with equitable access to alternative transportation in the city's infrastructure. Full stop. Like, I realize the micromobility share is not going to solve that, but in my opinion, that's the bigger issue. Especially if you're a person with some sort of physical disability, even if you're a person like utilizing a wheelchair, infrastructure is your concern. I guess if you want, I can for fun throw in snow removal.
Yeah.
I think if I am talking to people about their difficulties moving around the city, I think those are some of the difficulties, like just the risks that you assume.
I would like to see a program where maybe the guidance center and the shelter or whoever is in contact with our most needy have the ability to get them an e-bike for the day or, for sure. Without the need for a bank account, without the need for just maybe having 10 e-bikes at the guidance center and they're able to unlock one for one of their clients or at the jail. Here you go. Well, we're going to unlock this for you. Go run your errands. You can go take care of yourself.
Right. You just got out of jail here.
Mhm.
Yep.
Here's a way to at least get somewhere. Mhm. Great, thank you.
Any more comments before we wrap it up on this?
Maybe just quickly that, we could have I don't know if we're talking about doing the hubs or not, but just kind of filling in those gaps between where people live or work and the nearest bus stop, just making something accessible and convenient as possible.
Great, thank you. Okay, if that's it, then I believe we're done. Thanks for allowing our group to take up the entire time.
No.
Sorry.
This has been great.
We had this
Yeah.
whole conversation on how long it would take and we're like, it's gonna take the whole time.
Are you planning for the other commissions to spend that much? You probably won't have that much time.
No.
This is the next thing. These are the important commissions. The other ones are just check the boxes.
Like the softballs, like, of course
Yeah.
we're on board with it, you know?
Yeah.
But no, yeah, the presentation. was
Do you want e-bikes? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
You ride the bus today with boss?
Me? Oh, no.
No, it's on the ground.
There's some little patches.
Yeah.
What's your, we can, go through the rest of it quickly. Do you wanna, what's your appetite for end time?
Well, 6 o'clock, we usually end at about 6:15.
6:30 realistically is when it usually ends.
When it officially ends at 6:30?
Yeah. I would say,
You don't have
in my experience, that's usually when we all.
Yes, but we have talked before and I always forget what exactly our end time is supposed to be. So I'm splitting the baby, 6:15. Let's go strong for 12 minutes.
There's been there's been a difference of opinion.
Hey, that's
What?
splitting the baby?
You don't like that saying?
It's
Uncomfortable.
Wow.
That is it's a part of,
really saying?
that's a saying.
You
Vegas with me?
It's
Biblical.
Yeah.
biblical. It's like King Solomon, there's two people claiming that that they're the mother of a child. And then the judge says, well, I'll just split the baby in half.
Yeah.
So this is why you had a 6:30.
There's some cartoon that, like replaced that with, two people were arguing over ownership of a Schwinn Stingray. So could we make the saying, splitting the Stingray?
I like that.
I'd almost rather split a baby.
Too much.
That is the hardest I've ever made.
By the way, very hard out. Are you ever gonna come back?
That might not.
Please come.
Want to jump into one of our.
Yeah, so I think this, the other things on the, agenda, we're going back to the, crash data report. So we made a list of the things that we'll take a look at in more detail, and we're partway through this, but not all the way, so we'll have more information at the next meeting. The trip, Metro Plan, released its trip diary survey.
Oh.
So they look at all kinds of things related to how people travel. One of the key pieces of information that we kind of focus in on is mode share. So what percentage of trips are made by walking, biking, and transit? And in 2024, this is the breakdown. So private vehicles, that includes single occupant and multiple occupant. And that's split out. We can do that. It's 57.5%, transit 4.3, bike 7.9. And walking is the superstar at 26.4. And here's the trends over time. They've actually done this study every 6 years for 4 times now. So since 2006. This is one reason for this is that they allowed people to complete the survey on their phones this time. So instead of doing it by paper. So there may have been more capturing micro trips, like you went 2 blocks to get a cup of coffee or something that you didn't list, that may not have listed on the paper form, but did when it was easy to do on your phone.
Way to go, Flagstaff, over 30%, over 1/3
Yeah,
is getting out of their cars. That's great to hear.
Yeah, I think we'll talk more about this, more or less flat blue line there in the middle, some point. And then the last one I'll show you is they track it by kind of area of the city or region. So core is kind of downtown, NAU, the hospital, even parts of Woodlands Village. And here you can see green is walking trips. 46% of trips in the core are made by walking. Only 28.5% of trips made by vehicle. So what were the comments earlier about, can we repurpose one of the lanes on Aspen and Birch?
Yeah. We make it harder and harder to drive. That 28 becomes 15.
And then, really no surprise as you get to the rest of Flagstaff, those percentages drop of walking, biking, and transit. And then the rest of region, which is the kind of the communities outside of Flagstaff, even a further drop. So I think another thing that we can look at is like I think it's not difficult to identify what happens in the core that encourages people to walk and bike, but how do we replicate that in the rest of Flagstaff without necessarily having the same kind of land use support exists in the core? Those are the only things we pulled out kind of in the immediate term. We supplement this data with information from the American Community Survey or from the census. And so we can present more of that next time when we meet. So we can look at things like, kind of equity considerations, how it breaks down by neighborhood or among like poverty status or things like that to see how, get kind of a more detailed look at what's happening. So good. Thoughts, questions, comments? It's data.
Love it.
Okay, the last thing is, if it's all right, Mr. Chair, we'll go through the reports.
Sure.
Kevin, did you have anything on your efforts to get pedestrian recall implemented along ADOT roadways?
I do have a small, it looks like when I said last time that Steve's seems to be fixed, it is not. It's back to where it was again. So that's just my update. I haven't heard back from them yet. So that's all I've got on that.
I'll say that Ponderosa Parkway generally works like 9 times out of 10. The trains may complicated. I'm not sure, but
yeah, it's interesting to
really
see how
nice.
that works. Yeah,
Yeah,
like the past week, I feel like the trains and that Ponderosa Parkway has actually improved. So I've seen trains every time I've ridden this week, and the crosswalk is still working and counting down, and the train stopped and the train station opened, but it still waited for the countdown to happen before it made the light change, which was really interesting to see. Does that make sense?
Yeah. As a consumer, I really appreciate the fact that
Yeah.
It's there.
Yep.
Quickly, other reports, ped bike projects. The cities we're just going to council in the next couple of weeks with the capital plan and the budget. In fact, next week on Thursday is a council retreat to review the capital budget. And we have half an hour to present our bike and ped projects. So we highlighted a couple of the ones that we're working on that we have budget for, and we'll present that to council. Also on ped bike projects, we've started to work on moving some of the things that we have budget for forward. So we've talked to some engineers, we've looked at some old projects and are starting to move forward on actually spending that money that we get for ped bike projects and getting them closer to construction. I don't know that I can definitively report progress at this moment, but we're working on it. D is a Flagstaff regional plan. I don't know if we have any real updates, but we're working on updating the maps for foots, bikeways, sidewalks and crossings, and that become part of the regional plan update. And that when they're in the regional plan, it gives us good authority to ask for that, require them of development when it comes in. F is asphalt foot repair and replacement. Capital is moving forward with that. They've engaged a designer, they've engaged a contractor. We intend to go to council in the next couple of weeks to get the contract approved, and we want to do all the replacement, all 8 miles of asphalt trails this summer. There will be some disruption, obviously, when the old trail is being pulverized to keep users off of it, but we'll try to message that to the public in a way that they can plan around it.
Love that. Great work on that.
First mile, last mile, we continue to work in the plans. We're at 90% for all the 3 components. They're bikeways, sidewalks, and crossings, all intended to support transit. We're working on construction of the first phase, which is going to be the Huntington sidewalks this summer. And I think that's going to be a fairly significant project. And it's will likely be the only project we'll work on this summer. And then over the next couple of years, we'll work on the remainder. One of the first ones in the next group, one of our highest priorities will be the Egan crossing at Fort Valley and Forest. We hear about that like practically weekly from people who, walk and bike in that area. We went out a couple of weeks ago and met with both the food bank, which is located on Huntington, and shelter services. And that was very beneficial to hear kind of their perspective about the, ped bike infrastructure in that area and what they see in terms of use and so on. It was also I have to say, it was pretty striking going out there on a weekday at how many people are walking along that corridor because of those agencies along there. So, we've really decided that Huntington is kind of the one that we want to pursue and start with, and it's one of the bigger ones that we have. So we want to make sure that gets done. And I think Estella has a lot to do with it, frankly. Like, she worked on this when she was at Mountain Line, and that Huntington was really kind of her idea. HI&J are a couple of grants. We will plan something in the future to kind of update you on what's happening kind of at the federal level as soon as we find out. It's really been a drip of information. Okay, you have one? Okay.
It's on the agenda?
So I'll turn it over to Chris Carlton and Kim if they want to give any updates on HI or J specific projects.
Sure, quick for H and I. Safe Streets for All, Butler Avenue Complete Streets, one of our big federal grant awards, $9.6 million for Butler Avenue, Milton Road to Sawmill. As far as progress, there's a lot that's in place on the front end, which is good, as far as what we've been hearing, right, from the federal level, basically being as far along as you can. Our grant agreement is in place, the IGA is in place, and we also received an AZ Smart Award of $2.1 million to help cover the city's match, or maybe 2.4 to help cover the city's match for that. That IGA is also in place, so things are moving. As far as progress, capital improvements is very close to opening a procurement for design and environmental services on the project. So things are moving forward. As far as the Safe Streets Master Plan, SS4A award project goes, also moving along on this. We're in the midst of a extensive scoping. A lot of scoping meetings have been going on, interagency, city, Metro Plan, Mountain Lion, Coconino County. So we're just starting to really hone in, getting ready for procurement. And the official IGA with Metro Plan, who was the recipient of the award, goes to council on Tuesday. So that will also be in place, hopefully, as of Tuesday. Those are my updates.
Okay.
No, Carlton needs to go
Kim,
first.
you mentioned you had a update.
No, but
for
after
it.
you do your
Yep.
infrastructure, I have a non-infrastructure.
Okay,
It's still safe routes, but it's not. You go first.
We're getting started. It's a design project for different schools. We had our first bi-weekly meeting with the consultant team, so moving forward. Nothing to show for it yet, but we're getting there.
I'm always confused by bi-weekly, every 2 weeks. Right?
Mhm.
Twice a week.
Yeah.
I think I chased that rabbit hole. It's officially, it could be either.
Officially.
Not use-
On the programming side, Corey's wrapping up his observational data and will be presenting to our board. And no surprise, preliminary data shows that 90% of parents drive their kids to school every day. Yeah, and there is a survey out on for hoping parents can take the survey on how do they get their kids to school. That one's looking like 92% of people drive their kids to school. So we have a lot of work on the programming side and behavior change making and all that. And if you follow us, then you can see the Safer People campaign if you haven't already. It's very fun.
I think I've told you that my 12-year-old takes the city bus every morning from the transfer station all the way to Sanawa. And now he calls them the bus crew. His group of friends are the kids that he rides the bus with. He also gets lunch with them. They're the bus crew.
Yay. I got them t-shirts.
They love that. Mountain Lion logo.
Whenever I go by school in the morning, I'm like, how do people do this every day? Like, it's insane. Like, there's just lines.
No, it's so much easier to put them on the bus.
Yeah, it's so much easier. Or ride the bike and you could just skip all those jerks in the line. I'm like, it's great. Yeah, it's bizarre that people do that. And 90% is a horrifying number.
Yeah, it's a bummer for sure.
Do you have data from before they had to cut to FUSD buses?
That'd be interesting.
Because I'm certain that's part of why.
It was bad. I mean, it's been bad since I was the safe routes person too. But yeah.
I mean, as a person with no kids in school, I can go out in the morning and I know immediately when NAU or when FUSD is on break or when they're out.
Oh, yeah.
I missed the bus because it's on time.
And it makes me
And
think,
I'm like, oh, shoot,
do
that's right.
does Flagstaff have traffic or do we just have is it just
School traffic.
entirely related to schools?
It's
Doesn't this give us some clues about how to approach transportation?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just saying.
Or snowballs.
Yeah.
Okay, one more thing, real quick. This is kind of a project, but the bike lane and sidewalk along Linda Vista are literally under construction. They're building a bike lane and sidewalk along Linda Vista, along that slip ramp from it starts at Paradise and goes all the way to Cedar.
Oh, that's what that is.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, it took me a second.
So our next meeting is April, what do we say, 17th? Should say. Before we break this meeting up, any requests for things to talk about or report on or agenda items?
I made my request.
Ride your bike week. Says. Ride your request.
Yeah.
It's called Ride Your Bike Week.
Oh, it's skill.
For me, it's not a month.
Back to the roots.
It's not a month anymore?
You should ride it all month though. Oh, the events will only be on the during the week.
You're not precluded from doing that.
Online is still
But there's no prizes.
There you
Not
go.
that I know of. So is it April 17th? Have we?
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, you've got
Oh, next,
videos.
for, right now or for next time?
For
Really
for next time, but people can look on themselves, but it's very fun.
We want a guided tour.
Anything else for the good of the order? Anyone else?
I've seen them. Rabbit.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Very good meeting.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. Have a great day. Night.
Bye-bye.
Time.
6:21.
Kevin.
Yeah, you should follow it.
Not bad.
But